مساء الخير، أهلا وسهلا فيكم بحلقة جديدة من برنامج بريطانيا اليوم. اليوم معنا ضيفة مميزة وموهوبة، هي الشيف والكاتبة جودي قالا. أهلا وسهلا فيكي معنا جودي. I would like to start with thanking you for accepting our invitation to show today. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. So yeah, thank you for being here today, and I would like to ask you to maybe just give us a brief introduction about yourself, but just about yourself, about your background.
My name is Judi Kalla. I'm Palestinian from Safad and Al-Lid, and I'm the daughter of Palestinian refugees who fled to Syria. I grew up in Syria and in Qatar, and in the 80s, London, to do something with food, and I didn't know exactly what I could do. Eventually, going into the kitchen and learning from my mom eventually became a job, and of course led to writing my books and so many other things after that.
Yeah, brilliant journey. Judi, you have written and published 2 books. The first one was Palestine on a Plate, and the other one was Baladi. Can you tell us more about these books and what's the difference between
on a Plate? I started writing it actually in 2010 when I had my restaurant in London called Ya'tيكم, and I never had time to finish it because if anyone works in restaurants, you know that there's zero time for anything. And then I put it on hold, and it wasn't called Palestine on a Plate. It was just the book at the time I was writing, and this specific book is very, very classically traditional Palestinian foods, and there are some quirky recipes for the desserts that I invented, but it was a more traditional base. And Baladi is more foods from the diaspora where Palestinians fled to. So we went everywhere, and it was turning those foods that we learned from those countries to make them our version, Palestinian style, but of course always keeping the identity of the origins where they came from. Yeah.
That's really nice. Very good idea, actually. Quickly. First, for example, you haven't told it. You love to what you do, which is cooking, and you love to your family, and lastly, you love to your back home, Palestine. Where's the inspiration for this combination that you created the book came from?
Honestly, I was very detached from myself as a Palestinian because I didn't really know how to speak Arabic or communicate very well. And in my 20s, I started to learn a little bit more about my identity and started to learn how to read and write and speak Arabic. Yeah. And it just intensified from there because, the Arabic language is so beautiful and complicated and complex, and I just found that it made me want to learn more about not just being a Palestinian but as an Arab and our life and culture. And our home was always filled with our grandmothers and aunties, and I have a lot, I think most Arab families, and they used to come to our house in London every year for months at a time, and we'd sit together. Well, they would sit together cooking and talking, and I loved that whole atmosphere because growing up in England, when we went to friends' houses, it was just mom, dad, daughter, son with a friend, and that was it. There was never a community feeling and one dish on the dinner table. So I really fell in love with our food and our culture more and more as I got older because I realized how different it was to where we live, and it just sort of expanded from there.
That's really lovely, and you're right, the difference in culture is just massive, and the main thing I would say, even me personally being here for 16 years, I miss is just being with the extended family. So, and that's exactly what my kids also like. Once we go back every year, they love when they get together with the nieces and my nieces, cousins, and everyone. That's talk a bit about your challenges and struggles. Every successful story, there is lots of struggles and challenges on the way. So tell us a bit about your journey and the struggles you faced.
Well, I didn't know that there would be struggles, because Palestinian was okay as it would be to be from any culture or country. And once I submitted my book to my agent, and she obviously takes it to lots of publishers, they all really loved the book, all the ideas and the stories and the recipes. And they didn't like the title of Palestine being on the front. It could have been a subheading, but not to be the main thing. And for me, I wasn't writing a book to write a cookbook. I was writing a Palestinian cookbook, because I didn't want it to be like a normal Middle Eastern, because there's so many things. I wanted it to really have the identity, and it just didn't work until my last meeting with my actual publisher, who was also a little bit like, where is Palestine? Does it exist? What do we call you? How does it work? And, because everybody knows what Israel is, but they don't know how it became what it is, and what happened to people before, still till now. So we had a really intense conversation. I showed her a lot of things, historical facts, and she was so intrigued that this has never been spoken about in British culture or on the news or something really publicly. And she went for it. And this is how, she's like, let's go for it. We'll try it and see. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I said to her, trust me, it's going to work, because there's more people who support what's happening to us than there are people who are against what's happening to us. And that's how Palestine on a Plate came to life, really with a lot of faith and love and, convincing. And she was very, very happy with the result, because it was a really, really big success.
That's nice. And how did that move you to the second book?
Well, from the success of Palestine on a Plate, she asked me to start writing another book, which I already had, because there were so many recipes I couldn't fit into my book. You only have 240 pages, and that's it. So it sort of trickled in. And the second book was sort of a work with other people, because I only had up to a certain amount of recipes. So did my mom, because that's it. And then I used Instagram to ask people to help me with recipes of their families that we didn't have. And also photographers from Palestine donated their photos, because we didn't want to send an English guy to Palestine to take photos like a visitor. We wanted people who live there to show what they see Palestine as.
In the book makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was so beautiful. We had 15 different photographers who donated their pictures, and then also the recipes and everyone's name, so if it was somebody's mom, we put their name in the recipe. Yeah, everybody got credited for their recipe. And it was a nice community feel to have that, because also we were learning as we were going. My mom had I think people forget that Palestinians are segregated. They're not able to travel from each area. So we might eat something that's normal for us, but another person in Nablus might never have eaten it, or Ramallah, or Jericho. Yeah, so I loved it. I also got so much knowledge from that myself. So I loved it. Yeah.
That's really nice. Can you also, we've seen other struggle in your life, like when you were earlier, for example, looking for a job or maintaining a proper job in the UK. Can we talk more about this struggles?
Yeah, I mean, I never experienced, well, actually I have experienced, I never thought that I would experience having to tell somebody where I'm from in any kind of interview, because it doesn't really matter. And one of my first job trials I went to, I won't name names of anything because it's such a long time ago. It's just the principle of the fact I had done a whole day of a trial in a place, and the lady sat down with me and she told me, great, we loved your work. We're happy to give you the job, you know, it's so interesting that you cook this food, you know, where you're from Pakistan. I'm not from Pakistan, I'm from Palestine. And she's like, oh, I thought you said you were Pakistani. I said to her, no, maybe you didn't hear me properly when I said Palestinian. And she was like, okay. And then she sort of walked off and came back, spoke to the chef, and then she's like, you know, actually, we don't really need this job to be filled right now. It's not a big deal. So I just said to her, but what happened from giving me the job 5 minutes ago and now? And she's just like, we actually don't really need you. The guy in her kitchen, he was really upset because he wanted me, not me, he just wanted somebody to be there, and he had that I was very good. And then he told me, she's Israeli and she's Jewish, and you telling her that you're a Palestinian just made her not want to hire you.
Wow.
So I didn't say anything. I was so upset. It was my first ever
facing.
And then I didn't say anything anymore to anybody. And then in other jobs, it wasn't necessarily about being Palestinian, it was just about being Muslim. I had worked in a big company for 2 years, and then there was a bombing in London on some buses in 7/7. And this guy that I had worked with for 2 years in this big kitchen suddenly started becoming very aggressive with me and assaulting me and calling me a Muslim terrorist. And it was really something very unusual for me, because I'm very professional at work. I don't really care where someone's from or their, you know, religion or culture. And I left eventually. It was a very, very complicated moment.
How did you feel about this?
Oh, I was
mentally
really shocked with somebody working becomes hero because something else happened from someone else doing something. Then suddenly you're, you know, part of this problem, and it was not okay. And this went even back straight from university. I was doing my dissertation, and we were talking about apartheid, and my story was about South African apartheid, which was very, very big in the news. And then, of course, I was talking about Palestinian apartheid and Israeli apartheid. And the teacher, you know, it's my final exam, and she stopped me and she's like, sorry, what are you doing? I said to her, well, I'm talking about the apartheid in Israel on Palestinians. She's like, no, we'll stay talking about South Africa. I said, but this is my dissertation is on this. And she's like, just stop. We're not having this discussion. And but my exam, I mean, I'll fail if I don't finish this.
Also, as a teacher, this is a reality that you're talking about. It's something happening in front of everyone. It's not like you're exposing something or making up something. It's just everyone can actually see it. So for a young
25 years ago, and I failed that part of my exam because she only listened to a quarter of my dissertation, and then I had to stop because the rest of it was about Palestine. And she's like, no. And then I started to sort of realize that there's something not right here. Absolutely. And it just pushed me to really be more of an activist about Palestine, talking about things that are factual, correct, historically, you know, documented. And it's not been easy because it stops people wanting to work with you, because unfortunately the Israeli lobby and the government, and they have a huge funding behind them, that companies that are not Arab, which we're living in the United Kingdom, they don't want to work with you because they suddenly attacked. And I've got multiple jobs because they love what I do, and on social media, they love numbers. Right. And I have a lot of engagement, but then they say to me, oh, but you posted this thing. I say, yes, but it's a historical document. It's not fake. It happens. Like,
it's that.
yeah, and that's it. They're like, we can't, would you take it down? I was like, absolutely, I will not take it down. And then they're, unfortunately, this is not going to work for us. And, you know, okay, no problem, find somebody else.
Yeah.
And they'll find some guy called Jack who'll do the same thing with less engagement. But it's that sort of fear to be behind a Palestinian who might say something really bothered me. But now I don't care. I want people to want to be, sorry, I have a very loud dog who decided to come very close to me. But yes, now I work only with people who know what I am, that I am an activist and a chef and I'm Palestinian and I'm not separate from each. I can't be one without the other. So
that's brilliant that you stood up for what you, that's amazing. Jodi, do you believe that other Palestinians are facing similar issues in the UK community?
I do think that there are other Palestinians who are not just in the UK community, but globally. They have so much more of a harder time to get things that would come so easily to somebody else. Because I see a lot of people, you know, business-wise and friends-wise, small businesses, and they do have a very big struggle to get past this first initial stage of I'm Palestinian, this is my product, this is my brand, this is who I am, and I support Palestine, and I will talk about it. Do you want to work with me? And most of the time it's a no. But, you know, you'll see Israeli chefs promoting everything with the same companies, but when it comes to the oppressed, we are not able to do the same thing because it's going to hurt the image of what exactly.
Yeah.
So, but there are some who don't, because some are affiliated with Israelis and they, you know, it kind of covers them in another way. But most Palestinians I've seen have a very problem, unfortunately.
Jodi, what's your message today? Who's the, let's say, group that you would like to get your message and you would hope that they will do an action that can bring you and other Palestinian justice?
Honestly, it's the people. Like, I think when you have a majority who feel safe to be able to voice their opinions without being separated or removed from financial gain, which is what people do. I mean, everybody works for money and love most of the time, hopefully. I think that's the main thing. When you have to protect and speak on the behalf of the oppressed in any place, not just Palestinians, then it creates a bigger movement. Because unfortunately for Palestinians, when we speak for ourselves, nobody listens. But if somebody else speaks for us, which has happened a lot, everybody's listening. And I find that very, very insulting and frustrating, but positive because at least someone's hearing it. But unfortunately, the voices of Palestinians don't get heard unless somebody authenticates them by being like a white guy or an Iranian, British, or whatever you want, as long as it's not a Palestinian talking about it. So what my frustration was mainly in the last year and a half when the whole thing happened in Ukraine is a lot of my friends, and I say this very loosely because I do not speak to them anymore, were championing Ukraine and supporting Ukraine and what was happening. And not one spoke about Palestine, because it happened sort of a very similar moment. Something happened in Palestine, obviously. And I messaged each one of them telling them, hold on, did you see what's happening in Palestine? They're like, yeah, but it's so political. I'm like, oh, but Russia and Ukraine is not political. And they're like, yes, but we're gonna, you know, we don't want to upset the Jewish community. I was like, but you don't mind upsetting the Palestinian community who are being murdered and subjugated to torture and apartheid and ethnic cleansing. And they just went quiet. And I started to like unfollow them and stop replying to them. And they all messaged me saying, hey, you know, we saw this. I was like, absolutely, I have zero conversation with you. If you support somebody, you have to support someone else. even if it's not Palestinians, support people from Yemen or people from Syria.
Yeah, just justice, basically. You're not asking for too much.
Yeah, but because it's like a big white propaganda machine,
Yeah.
they fall. And these are not white English people. They're Mediterranean, slightly Middle Eastern, from ethnic backgrounds who are doing this. And for me, at this point, I just sort of escalated my messaging about Palestine, because we need to talk about it a lot. It's a crime, like a huge crime in history that is happening. Definitely. And I hope people listen.
That brings me to another question about social media, which would, let's say, around the last 5 years, I don't want to say 10 years, it has some impact, I would say, on the people idea on Palestine, because we can see that, thanks God, social media is showing more of what happening there, what's called Israel doing to our people there. What's your thoughts about this? Can you see that impact?
Absolutely, I can see it. I mean, it's happening a lot, and obviously at the same time, social media are blocking Palestinians and people who support Palestine. My page was blocked for more than 1 year because I posted a video about Ghassan Kanafani, who was talking about peace and justice and liberation. And they told me that I was inciting hate and violence, and this is a terrorist organization. Wow. And for 1 year, no one could see anything. They couldn't find me. They couldn't do anything. And it wasn't just me. It happened to everybody. Then eventually one guy from Meta messaged me, and he helped me unlock it after 1 year and 3 months. But yes, it is helping. People are speaking out more because, again, not just Palestinians, but other people who with huge profiles who follow very famous Palestinians, like Bella Hadid as an example, and her sister, and others. They hit such a huge target in the market of the globe, and your normal guy who's sitting in Kansas or in, I don't know where, will see this. It will spark something. A lot of my English friends who are chefs are horrified. They're like, is this real? Is this happening? Why is it not on the news? How come we don't see this? I said to them, well, because Israel controls everything, and all the news is owned by Jewish families and so on. And they started resharing, and they also thankfully had a huge amount of followers, and they didn't realize the impact negatively that would happen to them. They're like, Judy, we're getting so many messages from Israeli lobby groups and Jewish companies. I said to them, yeah, sorry. It's fine.
Many people also get threats from that, and it becomes really serious. But I've seen that myself as well with my English friends in the UK, where they were shocked. It's like this haven't been happening for decades, and they're like, it's happening. I said, yes, and every single day.
Single day for 75 years.
And finally, thank you for listening. So
actually, yes. Somebody paid attention. I think this is the thing that, again, when non-Palestinian, we share it, and then it trickles through the system. Whatever social media you're using, and then one person who's not an Arab, who maybe whatever, from what color or religious background, posts it, then it becomes a thing. And it's a great thing. It's just frustrating that our voice is not the voice that's making the impact at the end, because it's people feel also defeated and a little bit, why are we doing this? Who's listening? What's going on? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just as long as somebody hears it. Even one person a day is one person extra than no people. So exactly. It's a really, really important thing.
Absolutely.
But to break this taboo and this whole protecting the Jewish community, then, no.
Yes. Let's speak a little bit about your future and your plans. So there is you're working on a cooking series currently. That's going to come soon.
I started already. I started doing live cookery live cookery classes and supper clubs again. And I'm writing another book, but not on Palestine, because there's so many Palestinian books that are out. There's nothing.
No more meals.
No. And also a friend of mine, Krista, she's a wonderful graphic designer. We designed these incredible tote bags, tea towels and aprons with the Palestinian map print with all the very important icons of Palestine on them. And then we did a batikha as well, because, Israel was trying to ban this image and the colors of that. And we've sent part of the proceeds goes to a charity. One of them was to the House of Friendship in Nablus, and also to the Syria-Turkey earthquake. So there's a lot of things going on that I think it's always nice to keep trying and expanding. And also I do food consulting for restaurants. It's not always Palestinian, of course. It depends what the client wants. But yeah, we have to keep moving. And always I try to put Palestinian things in there, because I want a little bit of us somewhere. It's important because we're trying to be they're trying to delete us, and I will always leave a little imprint of us wherever I can, in a good way. So yeah.
You have mentioned now, probably another interview, that you are for your recipes, you bring in some food all the way from Palestine.
Yeah.
And I understand it's a difficult journey. Can you maybe brief on that story as well, please?
Yes, my mom travels a lot. We're not allowed to go back to Palestine, so it comes through other people to get to my mom and then to us here. But also, I use a company called Zaytoon in London. It's an incredible company. I've been using them since I had my restaurant in 2010. And also their problems bringing their products in, because they have to go through the Israeli ports and they damage most of their things and open boxes and rip, they destroy their items. So the fact that, just to bring some olive oil or soap or frike, it takes so much. And then the costs and the taxes that they put on, it's like a slow suffocation of our history, because these things are used in everyday life for us at home.
Give up on all this, basically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
they're trying to make it so difficult that we're just like, I'll just use this brand, but absolutely not. All my spices are from Palestine, even though they go through Jordan and they come this way. My mom just came back. She bought frike and summa and tul and za'atar, but all Palestinian, just because it's really the best. And we want to keep something from our home in our home and share it with other people.
Yeah. That's nice. It was really nice. I would like to thank you first as a woman for not giving up, as Palestinian, for your ongoing resistance, and for your voice. Thank you very much. And I also would like to thank you in my name and Arab London name for being with us today. Thank you very much, and keep going.
Yes, absolutely. I won't stop until I stop breathing. It's going to be my last.
That's really nice of you. Take care, and thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It was so nice to speak.
Take care.
Thank you.